So I've got a few assorted things that I think will hang together as a talk. But I think I'll start just again saying what I said after Paul's introduction, that because, as Paul said, the old guard is here. We don't have any new folks here tonight. So Paul didn't introduce me, and made me think, he figures you all know who I am. And of course you know my bio, and you have some feeling for who I am. But is that really who I am? And I have some feeling for who I am. But is that really who I am? So that leads us right back to that fundamental Zen question: what am I? What is this? You know, I think all of us have taken on this question, what am I? And we really use it in our practice. That really is the fundamental base of our practice. But do we remember to use it when we're talking about you? Do you remember that you don't know who that person really is? That each one of us is carrying around our ideas, our beliefs. We have a sense of the people in our lives, and not only the people, but also the things in our lives. And that's all creation of our story. And of course, our story has some truth to it. So we can't just jettison the story either. But Zen is about great doubt. Challenging our assumptions. Really wondering, what am I? What is this? What are you? What is you? And remembering to go back and look. Check it out. Ask again. Those of us who are we're all in close personal relationships. Some of us have partners, and some of us have been with those partners for very long times. Do we really know who they are? How much of our sense of who our partner is has to do with the story that we've made up about them? And then because we have a story, because we have beliefs about something, then we act that way. And then we elicit the same response. So we continue to believe our story. And more we pigeonhole not only ourselves, but the people in our lives into these narrow frames of who they are. And when they act differently, sometimes we're happy and surprised by it, but often we're frustrated and upset because they're not acting the way they're supposed to act. Who are you? Is what we might ask, but not in the deep questioning sense of our Zen practice, but more about, you're not fitting yourself into my story. So when we ask this question, what am I? We're also asking the question, what are you? What is this? This great doubt, this fundamental questioning of everything is our Zen practice. But we have to have a kind of stability, a kind of ability to stay present and stay in that not knowing in order to do our practice. And since this is the old guard who's sitting in this room tonight, you're not going to be surprised to hear me talking about bringing your breath and your attention to your lower abdomen. We need to develop a kind of stability to be able to question, to be able to doubt. Back in the 1970s, there was a psychologist, he may still be alive, I'm not sure, Charles Tart, and he was a psychologist who was also a Vipassana practitioner. And probably we all still have these questions, but I was new to practice, and I know this question of self and having a self or not having a self was up with people who were practicing at that time. And he really was advising against this idea of getting rid of the self. And actually, the way he said it was quite powerful. He said, you need to have a strong sense of self, or a strong self, before you can discard the self. That if we don't believe in ourselves, if our sense of who we are is too fragmented, then we're really not ready yet to take on the hard work of letting go of the construction. First, we have to find our center, find our ability to stay present and here in the face of the discomfort or the confusion of not knowing. So we have to first believe, as Zen Master Bon Soeng would say it, believe in ourselves. And if we can believe in ourselves, then we can forget ourselves. So I want to start with a short story. I've been noticing in some of the media that I look at, which is a whole other Dharma talk, but there have been a few articles that I've been reading about the vasovagal nervous system and breathing that to affect the vasovagal nervous system, or the vasovagal nerve. And I personally know about the vasovagal nerve because I've had some issues with it. It's a nerve that runs from your brainstem all the way down your body, and it touches the heart, and it impacts how the heart, or let's say it this way, the cardiovascular system responds to stimuli. The vasovagal nerve is directly connected to the parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system controls the fight or flight response. And if you've ever, you get into a situation that you feel threatened and your whole body goes, for me, I feel it in here when it happens. That's the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, so there was some discussion about breathing techniques that allow you to influence the vasovagal nerve and actually help reduce the stress around fight or flight. Okay, this is all premise. And again, I was reading about this in part because I'm interested in this because my vasovagal nerve has some, let's just call them quirky idiosyncrasies. So, the technique of breathing that they suggested was, how to say this, breathing in, slow breathing in, and your exhalation being twice as long as your inhalation. So it reminded me that in the very old days when Zen Master Bon Soeng used to give meditation instruction, he would always talk about that kind of breathing. He'd say 3 counts in, 6 counts out. 4 counts in, 8 counts out. But that your exhalation should be twice as long as your inhalation. And that was the basic breathing meditation instruction that I got back in the late 1970s. And essentially, I've been, at least theoretically, using that technique the whole time I've been sitting since then. 2 things. The breathing instruction that Zen Master Bon Soeng gave was the same breathing instruction in the way to affect your vasovagal nerve to calm the parasympathetic nervous system. People who have high anxiety, high stress can cause this. The parasympathetic nervous system is, the right word isn't inflamed, but I don't know what the word would be. It's overproducing. So it's interesting to me that the basic Zen meditation instruction of the exhalation being twice as long as the inhalation is actually a way to get at the parasympathetic nervous system and allow our bodies to calm down. It's our overreactions to things that often have us lose our center and lose our direction and our focus. When we get stressed and tense, it's very hard to see things clearly. When the parasympathetic nervous system is over-responding, it's very difficult to have clarity of mind. So the very basic technique of breathing that we use is one that helps calm our parasympathetic nervous system. And when our parasympathetic nervous system is calm, we're better able to be present, to see clearly, hear clearly, smell clearly, taste clearly, touch clearly. So there's a base foundational work that we're doing on the cushion. Slowly breathing in, breathing out twice as long, calming ourselves. And as we calm down, we're better able to be present. This isn't magic. In fact, it seems to be biology. So it's been an interesting process. I've been working in the last week I've been refocusing on having my exhalation be twice as long as my inhalation. And I wanted to talk about just a few things that have come up while I'm doing that. Number one is, I've been working a long time on slowing my breath, calming my breath down. But as I've looked into it, I see that what's happened is that my inhalation has gotten so much longer and deeper that I can't twice breathe. It's hard to even say these words. I can't exhale at twice the length as my inhalation. So what's happened is I'm having to find a way to shorten my inhalation to allow my exhalation to be twice as long. I'm not suggesting that this is a breathing exercise. Breathing, the breath is foundational to our meditation. Follow your breath is the basic Zen instruction. What's interesting to me is the process of re-establishing a kind of breathing has made my focus much more concentrated. And Karen, you just nodded, and it reminded me of your talk when you talked about giving your default neural networks something to do. The attention on the breath has been bringing all of my attention present, and I can see the change in the quality of what it's like to be sitting. So two things. I am suggesting go back to your breath, check in. How are you doing with your breath? Are you aware of your breath? What is the pace of your breath? Can you work a little on your breath? You know, we often talk about remembering your posture. Pay attention to how it feels. Work with it a little bit. It helps you stay present. In the same way that if you just focus on the mechanics of what you're doing, your attention comes back into the room. When Paul gives meditation instructions, he's often talking about not getting lost in our stories, coming back to the room. If you're actually paying attention to what you're doing when you're sitting, that will help you come back and stay present. And I know just in the experience I've had in the last week that it's been a curious and interesting exercise to just pay more attention. There's a teaching from Zen Master Dogen that I know I bring up from time to time, and it comes from the Genjo Koan, and it's a pretty famous teaching. Many of you have heard it, but it basically says to study Buddhism is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be enlightened by all things. So once again, in the beginning of this talk, I talked about calming our body and mind so that we can actually be present. And then we ask the question, what am I? What am I is the study of self. What's going on in your mind and heart? Our meditation practice is a witnessing practice, bringing great doubt, wonder and curiosity, and watching. We're developing the capacity to see in this moment what's going on and what is this I. To wonder, to be curious, to watch ourselves. Watching ourselves does include becoming aware of our own karma, becoming aware of our behavior, becoming aware of how we respond to stimuli, becoming more aware of how it is that we react and interact with the world. I'm not speaking about trying to be perfect. I'm speaking about trying to expand our sense and our view of what am I. As we see all the different manifestations of I, our great doubt grows, our ability, along with the calming of the body-mind, to be more present, be more awake. So to study Buddhism is to study the self. That's halfway. The next line says, to study the self is to forget the self. Go back to what I said about that psychologist Charles Tart. You need a strong self before you can forget the self. We all want to skip the important work of seeing this I, and we're all wanting to throw it away. But if you throw it away prematurely, you're not really throwing away I, you're actually cementing I into your life. But when we can perceive how we respond to the different things in our lives, we grow more calm and aware and awake, then it's time to forget the self. No I, no you, no this, no that. Just do it. Studying the self can become a distraction. What's most important is to show up, be alive, from that calm mind and body, respond to this world. Each situation presents itself. In each situation, the information, the wisdom, the knowledge that we need is there. With our clear eyes, forgetting I, but perceiving, we can take in what's needed and respond accordingly. One of Zen Master Soeng's teachings is correct situation, correct relationship, correct function. See clearly, what is it right now? See my connection to this moment. What's my job right now? And then do it. Throw it all away. Throw yourself wholeheartedly into the moment and do it. There's Zen practice and then there's Zen life. They're not really separate. We practice. Even in our practice, throw yourself in completely. What am I right now? Not some theoretical, I am this or I am that. What is it right now? Don't fall prey to your own stories, either about yourself or about others. Remember that we create our own story. In Zen practice, we're working to allow the story to dissipate enough to be able to see clearly. And we'll never really know for sure if we're seeing it all, if we're seeing clearly or not. Do it. Respond. Each moment, be alive and witness. gain more wisdom from the experience, digest that wisdom, compost that wisdom, and you're not knowing fire, you don't know fire, your true self will have the ability to be present and alive. I don't mean this to be theoretical. In life, in practice, do it. As you're listening, do it. For me, as I'm speaking, do it. If you stray to the left, come back up. If you stray to the right, come back up. Feel your body. Feel the breeze. Connect with this moment. What is it right now? And then express yourself. Do it. Learn from your experience. But challenge your assumptions and do it.